So hi, welcome. I'm Melia Bensussen. Thrilled to be Artistic Director of Hartford Stage and really having a great time being the director of Rope, which we'll hear more about in just a minute. And this is our first seen and heard of this, the 25-26 season. I see people nodding at me, so I've got it right. And for the first time, we're doing seen and heard. I can't resist the phrase with a live studio audience. We're not in a studio. We're in the wonderful Victus Coffee shop. Thank you for hosting us. It's wonderful to be in the neighborhood. We have just come, oh yes, we have the coffee here, and it's just lovely to be down the street from our theater and down the street from our rehearsal hall, where just a couple of days ago we began rehearsals for the first play of this season, a new adaptation of Rope, a play that was originally titled Rope's End by Patrick Hamilton and has been adapted by the extraordinary Jeffrey Hatcher, all the way down here to my left, to a new play, brand new play. This is a world premiere commissioned by Hartford Stage, called Rope. And yes, it is the same title as Hitchcock's film, Rope, which was also an adaptation of that same play. We can talk about all these iterations, maybe, Jeff, when, to explain all these various incarnations. We're having such a good time doing this tense, strange, intellectual thriller with a lot of comic moments. To quote Jeff's comment today in rehearsal, it's as though an old coward play got kidnapped by Hitchcock. Hitchcock
got his hands on it.
Hitchcock got his hands on it. Yes, I think that's right. It's really good I'm not an actor because I can't repeat a line to say it. So I have just introduced Jeffrey Hatcher, whose work on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that was his play that we did last season to great acclaim, and had a wonderful time doing that. And then two amazing actors who claim they are nice people, even though they play the murderers in Rope. And that's not a spoiler, because as we talk about it a little, we'll learn that really the who of the murder is not the puzzle to solve on this particular thriller, which is part of what I think is really interesting.
It's the
right?
darkness. It's not the who, it's the darkness.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
So Ephraim Birney, one of our actors, and Daniel, I have to look up your last name, Daniel Neale. You're Daniel to me, but I hadn't, looked at your last name. So Daniel Neale.
Your price just went up.
And Jeff Hatcher, and here with all of you to talk about this play. And so let me start with you, Jeff. Since this is an adaptation of a play, not an adaptation of a novel, but it's not an adaptation of a film script, but there is a movie Rope by Hitchcock. So can you explain this to all of us?
Thank you for complicating the issue.
Anytime. That's what directors do, isn't it? We're here to make things really hard.
Just from a legal, ethical point of view, we should say that the play was written in the 1920s in London. It was performed in the West End. It was never performed on Broadway. But 20 years later, Hitchcock got the rights to it and did a film version. And the play itself went into public domain on January 1st of this year. I found out about it through a mutual friend, which means that we have the right to do anything we damn want with the play, which is, it's terrific if you want to go in and pluck at the bones of something, if you have a vulture mentality. But we can't do anything that is in the film that is completely specific to the film. So even though the plots are pretty much generally the same, if there's a funny line of dialogue or a really good speech that's in the film, we don't have the rights to that, so we have to leave that alone, which is unfortunate because the film was scripted by Arthur Lawrence, who wrote the book of Gypsy and West Side Story and things like that, along with Hugh Cronin, the actor, who also did some writing. So there's some awfully good stuff in it. But I know the play. I've seen the play produced once. It's a 3-act play. It's got, I think, 9 characters in it. And among the many things that we discussed very early on is let's get rid of the act breaks and turn it into a straight one act of about 75, 80 minutes that mirrors the experience of going to a dinner party. So when party starts, the lights come up, you see this dinner party to its conclusion as the clock keeps ticking. So it's real time, time equals time. Also, it struck me that there were a few things in the play that were a little freaky. Some ideas that could be more fully excavated, others that didn't seem quite so necessary. So I said this earlier, so I'm repeating myself, but it's very much a 2025 contemporary revisiting of the play, even though it's still set in 1929. In the same way that the 1948 film couldn't be what it was without the experience of the Depression and World War II. You know, there are ideas that are more contemporary that inform this adaptation. Having said that, it's still a, you know, as Melia says, a cocktail party comedy that goes very wrong right at the beginning, with a dead body in the chest. And the game is, will someone discover the dead body? How many clues are left out there? How many people realize what's going on? And, you know, I will echo Melia, who I love working with, that these two guys are very, very good at playing sociopaths. But then again, they're actors. And I'm not sure that there's a big difference technically.
I will say particularly when Daniel auditioned, he just completely nailed it, and then I felt like you almost could feel that the room had chilled with you, and so he turned very sweetly to me and said, I really am a very nice person, which was great. So let me turn it to both of you for a moment, and you know, we'll go back and forth on all this, but this is only day 3, right? So we're really just, you two did not know each other till you met the first day of rehearsal.
No.
Which is always, to me, one of the wonders of theater, that we all meet in a room and people, by and large, don't know each other. And then we really become, within a few weeks, one could say a few hours, intimately related to each other. And then 5 weeks later, 4 weeks later, however many weeks later, we put on a play all together. So it's all, but this is early days. So what does it feel like to be inside this play? And let me add one thing too, because I've been dropping this in. The original play has echoes of the case of Leopold and Loeb, a murder case that happened in Chicago in 1922. Patrick Hamilton, the playwright who originated this play, denied, right? Jeff denied ever being influenced by the Leopold and Loeb case. But I personally have been doing a lot of reading about the Leopold and Loeb case because there are many connections.
It would be eerily similar.
It would be eerily similar,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was a couple. It was 2 graduate students at University of Chicago, young, brilliant men. They were only like 19 and 20, but they were in grad school at the University of Chicago, and they decided that they would kill somebody just because they were intellectually superior to everybody else and could do it. And there is, early on in the play, again, this is not a spoiler, a sense of that. So when we mention sociopaths, there is the sense of people feeling that they're better than other people and that they're entitled to behave beyond morality, which to me is really an interesting thread to be talking about at this time in a 90-minute suspenseful, thrilling way with a lot of comedy, as opposed to in real life, right? So Daniel, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
What has it been like to be inside this play, even from when you first read it until now?
I find it so much fun to steal your word, to dive into something so nasty.
Yes.
That's how
Very,
Melia
I did.
described both these people who have everything in the world going for them. They are, London's upper class and have everything going in their favor, but can't help but just do the most heinous thing. And it's so fun to explore that from the perspective of theirs, which is that it's it's the correct thing to do. It's the only thing to do. And I think getting to dive into that friction has been really exciting and different from real life. Like I said, I promise. But I think that is part of the fun for me as an actor, is getting to do something that is so different and something that will never, be part of my lived experience. But to make sense of that on stage, especially with a text like this that is so rigorous, it's so exciting to have Jeff in the room, because often I'll be trying to make sense of something and be like, what's going on here? And I get to turn to my left and say, wait, what's going on here? And there's an answer. And it's really incredible. You said you started working on this shortly after it went into the public domain.
I want to say that I was told on January 3rd at dinner, and then started that night, because I'm so eager to jump in.
My experience of that story, it's totally true, is we were talking about commissioning Jeffrey, given the success of Jekyll and Hyde, and Jeff and I go way back. We've known each other, worked together for over 35 years, so it's really a pleasure to get to bring him back to our stage. So we were talking about what title would be fun, and I think January 4th, or maybe even the night of January 3rd, I got an email from Jeff saying, what if we do Rogue? And I think we had a draft within 2 weeks, which was faster than we got him the commission. so the draft of the play was faster than any payments. So I thank you for that.
I wanted to show Melia the superstructure to say, yes, there will be a lot of changes,
Yes.
but this is the basic idea.
Right.
But it's amazing how that idea stands up. And I think part of the fun in these early days is us trying to solve the crime and figure out how exactly they did this and where all of those things landed. So I think that's what I have most fun.
Yes, never ignore a great gimmick. There are a lot of plays that a friend of mine said this, so I'm stealing it from him, that, when you look at them, it's like they all have gimmicks. Night Mother is the one where the woman's going to kill herself with her mother at home. The Odd
Not
Couple,
a favorite theme of mine.
yeah, The Odd Couple is the one about the neatnik and the slob who decide to move it. So a gimmick, an idea that you can describe very quickly, and then there were none. 10 people are invited to an island, they're killed off one by one. They're almost the equivalent of elevator pitches. And when somebody like Hamilton gets an idea like that, or any playwright, that's the thing that you can't put a price on.
Yeah. What's it like for you to be inside this strange little nasty machine?
Yeah. No, I echo what everyone has said so far. And it is great to have Jeff in the room with us for sure. But I one of the things that I have really started enjoying just today, which was our first day up on our feet, was
that means it's the first day we're starting to stage, right? So we start the rehearsal, we sit around a table, we talk about what things mean, we read them, and then we have this terrifying moment of, okay, now you have to walk.
Okay, now this actually has to be
Yes,
play.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed, especially with Daniel, is these little moments of us being on our own. What's so great about this play is that it is a dinner party, and just like any dinner party, there are moments that you have with people that are not the focus of what everyone is watching. So there's interpersonal relationships, and ours is a very complicated and interesting one. And so there were moments where we were trying different things, and I go and I hand Dan his drink, and you would scold and shoo me away, and or we'd adjust, and you'd be like, hey, is everything all right? What's going on? So yeah, it's the beginning of creating the entire relationship.
That's right, that's a great way to put it. So I should add here, right, that the film, Hitchcock's film, was a famous film for a variety of reasons, including Hitchcock's technique shooting it, but also because it was, queer coded, which is to say that it's never explicit, right? But I would say, right, and I will let us find and you two find the details of the history, but let us say these two gentlemen are roommates, right?
We get along very
You get along.
Until we
Do
don't.
we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, there you go. It's a real relationship.
Yeah.
There's intimacy writ large.
There you are.
So, and in the, as well, no, Jeffrey, wouldn't you say in Patrick Hamilton, it's also kind of coded in there?
Yes, if you want to perform the original play and emphasize the possible romantic sexual relationships in the play, you can do it. You can play all sorts of subtext and things like that. This is not a play though where any of the men kiss or anything like that. I think that would be a bridge too far, because I think the audience is smart enough to pick up on these things without us really telling. The audience, this is the thing about plays that I think we sometimes forget. The audience brings their own experience. You bring your experience of old movies you've seen and friends you know and dinner parties that have gone bad. I hope you've not been to a dinner party with a corpse, except for the turkey at Thanksgiving. But you bring this information to the play, and then if the play is riding the right level of subtleties or complications, they detonate ideas in your head, memories, etc. So there's a lot that you don't have to do that the audience will pick up on. For example, a wiser head than mine once said, there are some things in a play that you have to explain 2 or 3 times to an audience because they're complicated. But if a character comes in and says, I'm pregnant, you don't have to explain that to the audience. Either you've had a baby, or you thought about having a baby, or your daughter did, or your brother, and
If your daughter did. If your daughter did, the chances are really good that you did too.
No, that's true. I was thinking of an adoption. But these things, like an audience member goes, oh, I know what this is.
Yeah.
We have an engagement that's not going well. We have a father who doesn't understand his son. And so you guys can fill in a lot of blanks for us.
And we are very much in 1929 London, when there was a different point of view about what it meant to be gay and what you could and couldn't say in public. So, which gives it another layer, I would say, of titillation, actually.
Well, I think that's like the exciting thing to dig into, is to also say, is that love?
Right.
Is that attraction? Is that trust? Because I think not just between Lewis and Brandon, but a lot of the relationships in this show have you asking that question of, just because they are related or because they are engaged or because they are best friends, what's really going on underneath the surface? And the way that shifts on a dime keeps me on my toes.
I think that's a lot of what Jeff has
Yeah.
said. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Go ahead.
well, all I would say is that there's something interesting in this play of when you take away the mystery of who is the murderer, all of a sudden the mystery becomes about everybody else's involvement in it, right? Which is an
That's
exciting
great.
thing to discover as you go. It's, okay, well, wait a minute, why is this person here and why are they acting so strange? We know they're not the murderer, so
And what's the connection to the people here, and that we kind of reveal, Jeff, what I love that you do in your writing is you don't overtell. There's tips of icebergs being revealed about personalities and histories, and we'll leave it to all of you in the audience to fill it in.
Well, there's a great tradition in plays, but also I'd say in sitcoms too, of the unseen character. And when I say sitcoms, I mean like the guy on Home Improvement who lived at the other side of the fence, or Norm's wife in Cheers. The people. And this play has a couple of those characters. Someone's a wife, and most specifically the murder victim. And some of the game of the play is, can you dramatically depict someone who's not actually on stage, which is a lot of fun. And again, if you have relationships and families and all that, you say, I know what the other end of that conversation is, so I don't need to hear both sides.
There's also, for me in this play, you and I talked about this briefly today, Jeff, is how many titles of philosophers, novelists, writers. There's a sense of what the thinking is, right? I mean, Daniel particularly, I know, no, it's the straight thing. The staging here is a little complicated. but I feel like you and your tutor, who we will meet, share a passion for a certain kind of intellectual pursuit. And there's certain thinkers that you bring up that have shaped modern thinking in some ways. And I wonder what that's been like for you as a process to start. I mean, I just keep writing down the names of the readings that I want to bring into the room for us to dip into. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how deeply I can, interrogate each of those individual
that's it.
philosophers.
Well, then you're out. Go. Right?
But I
Just.
think, but I think the good news is the audience doesn't have to either.
Well
Like
said.
I, in my first read of the script, was so terrified at how this fictional story from 1920s London felt so relevant in today's time, where action becomes detached from ideals and thoughts, and it feels so distant, particularly the life of another human being. And I think that in all the ways that Brandon is able to justify this thing he's chosen to do, like that's the one piece that's always missing is the humanity of it, which is chilling. Right.
Yeah.
And you're kind of the artist in the couple.
I know. We spoke about this earlier today in a way where there is a lot of kind of justifying of murder and intellectualizing the need
Right.
for it that comes up in this play, but it doesn't feel like, I'm sure certainly Leopold and Loeb both had their own versions of that, but with Lewis, he is doing it because he's in love, and that's what I said earlier. And there's something very sympathetic about that, because we've all felt that. But isn't there something interesting in the justification of love, of using that to justify the most heinous things, and kind of discovering
That's really interesting.
what kind of person does that?
Right,
Yeah, because-
the need for the love.
Yeah.
That he will do anything to keep Brandon's love is what you're saying.
Yeah. And there's something frightening about that in its own particular way. I don't know. You've covered the whole gambit of why someone might kill another person in this way.
Well, as a philosophical political point, I guess I would say that coming out of the 19th century, the Victorian period, the Industrial Revolution makes people, if you're going to buy into your Marx, alienated from their work, et cetera, which leaves a certain enervated quality to certain kinds of, let's say, men in particular. And someone said, I can't remember who, that the great disease or illness of the 20th century, the early 20th century, was boredom. I don't think that's true, but I think a lot of people did feel that. And there was as we say in the play, a movement towards pagan self-assertion. I don't want to draw distinctions with like the drumming movements, Men in the Woods and all that, but the idea that we must get back to some clear, pure stream, that is not civilization, but where you can actually feel the most at being alive. And of course, the paradox being, and to do that is to kill someone.
Which is the most inhumane, and just to say the play does not condone it, just to be clear.
and one of the reasons it's set in the original play is set where it was, because that's when it was written. But the reason to keep it in the 20s is that then you have the fire of World War I, and there are people in the play who have experienced World War I, and they know what it's like to say, yes, let's join up, let's take on the Kaiser. Now I can assert, my dormant masculinity, and you get blown to bits. And then there are characters who didn't go to war, and so they're living in a strange world where they weren't old enough to be conscripted. They could only see it from afar, and so in a weird way, they're robbed of that chance to be the quote-unquote men that the men in the trenches were. And so they've got all this, testosterone is probably the wrong word, but they've got all of these instincts that have nowhere to go, and they're already there's an element of perversity in their relationships and philosophies already, and so I think this exacerbates it to a degree.
And to put this all in an old coward cocktail is really the way we went to have the medicine go down, as it were, right?
There's a lot of laughs.
There were a lot of laughs. What's been really great about having Jeff in rehearsal and making a new play, right? You two get to be the first people ever to play these parts, right? In Jeff Hatcher's version. So the impulses that happen in the room really matter so much, and the experience that you'll get to see seeing a world premiere is that it's really created by Jeff for the people that are in the room. And this is day 3, and we've had, I don't know, about 30 new pages, give or take, and what they are, which I just think the craft of playwriting, and hats off to you, sir, is that there's just a moment, as Daniel said, there's just a moment where something's like, wait, what is happening here, why? Or I'll say, I'm confused by, and Jeff will go, oh, yes. And he goes and types away, and stage management an hour later hands us, 8 lines. But the 8 lines clarify a moment, sharpen it, help an audience follow a line of thinking. And that's really a privilege to have in the American theater.
Well, one of the peculiarities about writing for an actor, and yes, the script was written months ago, but now we're writing things that connect to the actor. So some days, Ephraim or Daniel do something, and it's like, oh, well, that makes me think it would be fun for him to say this or that. And these are specific to their personas and performances. But in the same way that, Rex Harrison was Henry Higgins and Ethel Merman was Mama Rose, just because you define a character based on an original actor doesn't mean that other actors won't be able to play it someday.
Right.
The weird thing is, the more granular you are about that specific actor, the more it's going to be able to be done by other actors. You don't do it by letting it down and make it general.
Yeah.
The more specific, the more universal it becomes. That's the paradox.
But you'll each know with every future production that it was what you did in the room.
Every time we've gotten one of those
Yes.
new pages, we'll read it down as a company together, and without fail so far, we will get to the new line and go as a group, and all get so excited by whatever new tidbit or change. I mean, right?
It's really fun.
It's really special and neat. And
Thank you.
what we were joking though, we're like, when are you writing?
I know.
Because he sits
Like
in
you're
the
like, break
room.
out a laptop for like 5 minutes, and we get like 6 new pages. Where did that come from?
Well, sometimes there's 6 new pages that have 5 new lines on them.
But you've done, and just to sort of go a little bit into your writing world, this is not a new genre for you.
No, I like murder
I can't
mysteries
see
a
him,
lot.
but I know he's down there.
No, I like thrillers.
Yeah.
The earliest stuff I read was Sherlock Holmes stuff and Agatha Christie when I was a kid. So I really like this form.
Your dialogue for murder is the second most produced play in America the last 3 years.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's not
They
often.
won't tell you?
Well, no, they do. American Theater Magazine just kind of crank out the numbers. But we were saying earlier that there's a kind of hunger for these thrillers and mysteries since the pandemic. With so many political differences, the idea that you're going to write or have a play that deals with crime and justice, and you're actually going to nail the bad guy at some point is.
Or the good guy, Daniel, just to be clear. I
Yes.
don't want you to take this to heart.
Or the misunderstood sociopath. We live in a world just filled with ambiguities and yes, but murder mysteries and thrillers, tend to say we make a pact with the audience. We promise you, we will give you these thrills, and the questions will be answered. And not every play does that, and every play shouldn't. There are lots of plays that are great about all these ambiguous things. But I think you can call it comfort food.
it also is, it's really fun to be scared together. I think theater, right, brings us together. There is so much good content on television. I can't pretend. I mean, back when I started directing a long time ago, it was easy to make the argument that the best writing and the best acting was on stage. And now there is a lot of really good writing on TV, but the experience of watching really fine writing and acting together, especially with a thriller, I think is unlike anything else. Because even as you described how everybody feels reading a line together, then imagine 485 people hearing that line together, being surprised together, making a discovery together. It's just a really cool theater experience, I think. So that's, I think, part of we crave community in different ways now. So.
Yeah, people have said this before, but if you go to see the funniest comedy, I don't know, pick something like There's Something About Mary, like a really funny movie. If you see it by yourself, you probably don't laugh much. But if you see it with a packed house, wow. Same thing with watching Psycho. Just there's something about the bodies next to each other, the breathing, the chemicals, the electricity.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about when you think, and it's early days, of course, but when you think about performing, and tomorrow will be the first day, neither of you's been to Hartford Stage before, right?
No.
So tomorrow we're gonna walk around the stage and work with a voice coach to work on accents, because these gentlemen are playing young British upper class public school boys. Yes, I will be giving posture notes, I'm sure. And we'll walk around the stage. But when you think of performing this, where does your mind go? What do you think will be fun about you and an audience sharing this?
It's kind of like when, I don't know if this is what anybody does with their pastime now, but like when you would do those murder mysteries at home, I don't know if anyone's done those, where you invite friends over and you'll read it. Someone is
TJ's nodding.
People are
TJ,
nodding their
all right,
head.
TJ and Evan.
Yeah.
All right. We know we have, we
It's
have
kind
some
of-
folks here.
It's that sort of group experience of all of us getting to
That's
live
fun.
a little. It's the game of it all, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I think will be most fun about performing it with everyone, is that it is melodramatic. We do have lighting cues planned where lightning strikes and you just see the silhouette of a man in the corner somewhere, or it's so easily defined and so eager to play into the things that we all love about the genre.
Where did that come
Yeah,
from?
exactly.
Who's calling? What's
Yeah.
the knock?
I
Why
think
is the?
I think it will be such a blast to perform live with everyone, because I imagine it will be a blast to watch.
Cool.
And I feel particularly lucky because Brandon's kind of the architect of this whole situation. And so by design, I get to have a really good time. I don't know if that's going to work out exactly how we planned these, but
And that we won't give away.
yeah. But so much of it is a dinner party with a crowd of folks who I've chosen. And what's better than that?
Yeah, you really cast it, right? You're really kind of the director of this little evening.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I get to watch it unfold with the audience.
yes, that's
And I think
right.
I take almost as much joy, if not more, as
And he's not only the director, but kind of a key player in how he manipulates the situation. So I think watching Daniel have a good time playing Brandon, having a good time, destroying other people's lives. What's the line you say? It's disturbing how much pleasure you get.
no, it's this pain, this pleasure you get inflicting pain.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Lewis kind of
You'll
has
get
this
to-
moment.
You get
of-
to see me having a bad time being a character having a bad time.
No, you're not gonna have a bad
I'm having a
time.
great
You're gonna have
time.
a good time playing a character who's maybe not having a good
terrible day.
Talk about a bad day.
Yeah.
All right, this is really.
This is not working out.
Part of what's fun about this as well is Hartford Stage is a thrust theater. And typically, right, Jeff? I mean, these plays are written for proscenium, right?
Yes.
Which is to say, right, a window, a sort of frame on the action, and you in the audience are seeing it this way. and the actors are a bit far away. What I love about Hartford Stage is these gorgeous sociopaths will be right by you as you watch the play unfold. And I was watching you even today. Daniel's already like, how close can I get to the audience? I like seeing you. Oh, this chair looks really good. Right, which is perfect, right? And Lewis, rightly,
Yes.
is like, how far away can I get from everybody?
And that brings everyone closer to the mystery of it. There
Exactly.
are so many clues and pieces and things that I'm excited for the audience to be in such close proximity to that I'm not sure they would have the same
I
chance or would
totally
catch
agree.
everything in the same way if they were more detached. So,
And you have a beautiful apartment, you two. I mean, our
It's true.
set in our theater, right, Jeff? What did you you were talking about how Jeff actually changed some lines based on the beauty of the set. We have a set model in the room, right? So we can all look, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll have photos of the model online. So feel free to, right? You can,
And it's not just the set. I just came from a costume thing. And,
We're gonna look great.
Yeah. I mean, it does all the work for you as an actor, which is a great relief.
Yeah.
We can just stand there and say the words.
Yeah.
And let the set and costumes,
it is.
Jeff's words.
They are really
do
beautiful
the rest of the
costumes.
work.
Yeah.
There's one. So it's a cast of 6, 5 wonderful, gorgeous, male-bodied humans, and one stunning woman, who, when I staged one part of her entrance today, said, "No, I have to enter with the coat." Because they have to see the coat. They have to see the coat.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe we'll see the coat at the end. And she's like, no. This coat has to be on stage the minute I come home. And I like how she found the moment to hand you the coat to take off stage. Because I said, I don't know how we get the coat off stage. And Fiona was like, I'll take care of it. And she came on, and they're not wearing the costumes yet. And she did make it your problem. Everyone has figured out that Lewis is there to solve their problem.
Yes,
So you're gonna
exactly.
be busy making drinks.
I know. I'm doing a lot of, I don't even have to worry about what choices I'm making today. I'm just doing a lot of chores on stage.
I think that's one of the things that I maybe wasn't anticipating that's so exciting is how many problems there are to solve. Right?
Yes.
You hear about a unit set with 6 actors, and I'm already like a little suspicious. Is this going to keep me engaged? But there's so much.
Yeah.
We have, it's endless puzzle solving, which I personally, as a director, just love.
Yeah.
Because we sort of started moving through and we go, now wait, we have to get these 2 people together for a private conversation, which these 2 people can't hear, while these 2 people, and he has to do something I'm not going to tell you because we won't tell. But there's all sorts of things like that. And Jeff has made it a windy road. It's not, right, there's a line in the play that what's the most direct path from A to B, Jeff? Isn't that what? We're used to shortest point. This play does not take the shortest distance in terms of personalities and surprises.
Yeah.
So, well, are there questions from? Yes, I mean, this is new for Seen and Heard, but are there questions? I didn't ask my wonderful team that's put this together if we could do questions, but here you all are. So,
There's no pressure.
cualquier cosa, anything. Yeah, TJ.
You guys have talked a lot about various themes and a couple different genres. I'm curious, just like as writer and actors, who do you think is gonna really love this play? Like, what French that you bringing to open night?
Whoever's going to scream the loudest.
Bring all your friends.
Bring all your friends. There's the answer.
I think too, one of the things that I really appreciate about it is how many layers there are to it. I love a show that I can go in knowing nothing and have a great night, or I can do deep research on all the philosophers
Right,
and
you
have
really
read the
could.
script and have an equally great night. And I think this is one of those shows. So as much of a pop answer as it is, I think there's a lot of massive appeal for anyone who's old enough to see a show about work.
I think that's so true because what I was saying before is we hear quotes of Nietzsche, of Dostoevsky, of Emerson, John Stuart Mill. I mean, it's actually sort of this interesting mix. But you don't need to know anything about all those people because you hear enough of the quote to give you a context. But you do have this, I think it's gonna be the kind of play you're gonna wanna see more than once. Because you're gonna watch it once for the ride of it, and you're gonna be, and then, which is my favorite thing to do, and I do this after these kinds of things, or TV shows or stuff, and then you play it all back, and you go, oh wait, that's why she said or he said in that first scene, and you start to put it together in a different way, or you go and trace down one of the quotes that you thought, and you go, oh, that is so much what Brandon was thinking, and the second time I see it, I get those.
There are six characters, and each character has a secret that you're
That's
finding
true.
out throughout the show. So, I mean, bring anybody who wants to see a show 6 times.
That should be a marketing. I think we,
Marketing.
in the marketing line.
Well, I would like to ask, as actors, how difficult is it to adapt to that language pronunciation?
So the
Oh,
question is,
dialogue.
how difficult is
How
it to?
difficult is it to adapt to it? I mean,
You mean the 20s English kind of highbrow?
yeah, the English.
The
language,
dialect,
the
the
dialogue,
style.
the style.
It's a great question.
Down to the T, you gotta
Yeah.
be perfect.
Do you want
Bring it on to
your
the-
accent for us? No, I want them to come see the show.
Let's scare them off.
But,
We haven't had our dialect coach.
I think what I would say to that is, I think every little piece of it informs the rest.
Yeah, like
It's
the
so well
costume.
written,
Yeah.
and the vocabulary is such a way, and even just holding a glass of gin and it and a cigarette makes you say these words in a
Gin
different
and
way.
it is the drink that they're all drinking, and it's a gin in Italian. And I learned all about this, thank you, Dr. Google, late last night, although our props person already had told me, but I was like, I wanna read more. That the drink at the time was gin and Italian vermouth, which was a sweet vermouth. I cannot tell you how gross this drink sounds to me, but the fact that you're pouring scotch for yourself
I
through the
know.
evening, I find very amusing.
I don't touch that.
But
It looked like it used to be you'd go to London and ask for a martini. And what they'd give you was gin with some martini and Rossi poured in. And it wasn't chilled, it was just kind of flat, warm.
Oh,
You're better off getting it fed intravenously.
But I loved what you're saying, because Daniel at one point today, I mean, again, early days on our feed, and so your question is so appropriate because there's so much for these guys to think about.
Yeah.
Because Daniel's walking around there, these guys are being really good. They're already putting their pages down and trying to remember their lines already. So kudos, because that usually, you don't have to do that, this early, but I appreciate it.
Pretty good.
But Daniel was walking around with the fake cigarette, and then I said something. I go, "Wait, you should just have another drink." And you were like, "That's what's missing." Because I have this, but what is in this bag?
Yeah.
It's on the script. Yeah, but all that to say, I think it actually so far has felt really natural. I mean, I'm excited to spend more time with our voice and dialect coach to, not only finesse those sounds, because the reality, I think, oftentimes with the stage dialect is it doesn't sound quite like the actual dialect, because we want the audience to understand everything.
Right, if you get too good, the audience doesn't understand.
So it's choosing select sounds and modifications to, exactly, to convey the right energy and the right essence without being 100%.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's actually, I once did an Irish play called Dancing in Unison. Really a wonderful play. And Christine Nielsen and Christina Haig were both in that play, just saying. And they worked so hard on their dialects, and after first preview, I had to go backstage and say,
Tell what they're saying.
no one had any idea
Yeah.
what your lovely women were saying. because they've gone Western, Donegal, Irish. I mean, all the way.
There's nothing quite so frightening as an actor coming up to you and saying, "I found out what neighborhood in Manchester my character is from." Like, no one's going to understand a damn word you say. Yeah, John le Carre once said of a character in one of his books that he pronounced the word yes as if it were spelled E-A-R-S, ears. And if you think of it, it's like, yeah. Yeah, and it's a very upper class.
We won't be doing that.
No, although we are mic'd, which helps.
We are what?
Mic'd.
Yeah.
So, but, I'll say part of why we're mic'd, because shows at Hartford Stage are not usually mic'd. So, since it's come up,
I guess we're not mic'd.
No, the reason we're mic'd in part is because we have a brilliant sound designer. We haven't talked about the sound of this show. And I'm thinking it's the same sound designer who did Jekyll and Hyde. And there is something about a noir, and I know different period, but a film noir vocabulary that really interests me for this, of how we draw out suspense and what the environmental sounds are.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Jeff has done, I think, thanks in part to these days and hearing all of you, is this sense of conversations off stage happening that you will hear. And so the body mics are not, because you'll still have to project in this theater, but are really there to help us create a real ambience for all of you in the theater of sounds and an environment. So you really feel, as Daniel was saying, you're inside this dinner party. And you are really one of the guests. Maybe we should have, and you can bring your drinks into the theater. So just bring your cocktails. I don't know if you want to bring a gin and it, but bring
You
your
can
cocktails.
place orders. I'll make it for you. I'm up there 90% of the
You're just
What?
gonna come and get them.
Yeah.
Get
I'll be like, can I get you? And they're close enough to the
That's
stage.
very funny. Yeah.
I was wondering if there are particular challenges, either for a writer or for actors, or stage crew, with 6 actors on stage and a whole crew, to do a play in real time when things are happening. And I wonder if that is a particular challenge, and if so, what are the challenges? Because most of the time, if you do a scene, you're on one another's time. But here you have one
That's
80-minute
great.
period.
And something that one of our actors realized today when I described the dining room, was that she wasn't going off stage. Because there's a bit where they're in another room and scenes are happening, but they're not leaving stage, they're actually in you will see them. And so there was this, wait, we don't leave stage? And then you worried about it.
I was worried. My character has so much liquor throughout this play. And I was like, I am going to need to run to the restroom so quickly after this.
Yeah.
Is that the catheter
That's
discussion?
that was brought into
There are
play.
no catheters in this production. I'm just gonna say that.
Yet. So
You're a young man,
Yeah.
darling.
I'll be running around. No, it'll be. I think there is. I think the fun of all of it is also the difficult part, right? Is that you're in many ways actually throwing a dinner party on stage with everyone.
And
right?
there will be food, and so if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
you're really counting on a nimbleness of the performers, right? There's enough nightmare stories in American theater of something going wrong and people on stage not being able to save it. I have great faith in this group. But Jeff, you're a huge fan of this sort of closed room setup.
Yes,
anyway.
I have nothing against plays that have scene breaks, and that's many plays. Most plays are like that. But there's something about the real-time, time equals time thing, the tension that's created, in the bodies of the actors. It's like watching a tennis match and knowing that the ball can never hit
That's
the
right.
green. And that you can have ebb and flow. You don't have to be going at top speed or anything. But knowing that any break in it, is a severe break in concentration and energy. You know, when a new scene starts in a play, there's almost an automatic adrenaline surge as the lights rise. You know, it's not even something that you're aware of, but there's well, now we've got a new scene, we might meet some new people, et cetera, et cetera. So this sort of thing is a lot harder. On one simple level, the fact that Brandon and Lewis bring in all this food, and then it is assumptively consumed, and then the whole dinner has to be taken off stage again before we get to the climax. At some point, I kind of hope that the audience, if not on a surface level, but perhaps in a subterranean level, says, wow, they were really able to do that without tripping, falling, making a mistake. I mean, one of the things about live performance is that we always know something could go wrong, right? And I would argue that, for example, you go to a movie, even like a long movie, there's no intermission. And it doesn't upset you, right? But if you go to see a play, after an hour or so, you want an intermission. Now, why is that? I think it's because the demands of watching live actors in front of you does something to your body. It tenses you, it makes you want to go to the bathroom. You know, it's all those things like, I need a break. And what we're hoping is that just to the point where you say, I might be needing a break, that's when we finish the play.
That's when it keys up and comes to a really extraordinary finish. So.
I think the other exciting thing about it is just getting to do it. Like, I think that's also a gift in a lot of ways. Melia was saying earlier, we're in the early days of exploration. Right now, a lot of what that looks like is hosting a dinner party 100 different ways. And of course, some of those paths are more exciting and be the ones that, parts of it that you'll get to see. But seeing all the different ways that lives. I mean, as actors, all you ever want is something to do. And having action like that to anchor what you're talking about and drive what you're talking about and drive the motivation, I think, as challenging as it can be to juggle, also makes the job a lot easier.
Yes.
Yay. I think we're at time. Thank you for being our first group of humans ever to witness a Seen and Heard. It's really, really fun to have done it with all of you and all of you watching. Well, of course, and all of you come to Hartford Stage. We start performances October 10th and we run till November 2nd. And all the information's on our webpage. You're probably on our webpage as you watch this, but if you're not, go to hartfordstage.org. We're thrilled to invite you all to see the first ever production of Jeff Hatcher's adaptation of Rope. Thanks for joining.